Your Sunday Morning Lion with Mike Shaft.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Yes, it is. Now, many people are called to a new direction by God, but few have achieved as much as Lorna Stanley. Known affectionately as the mother of Trenchtown, she left a successful career in Florida to return to Jamaica to set up a Christian school. Since 1994, Operation Restoration has educated over 400 young people who otherwise would have had no schooling. Lorna was in Manchester last week and caught up with her, and I asked her what she was doing in the UK.
The reason that I'm in the UK at this particular time is that right now I am meeting with several persons in churches and community organizations with a view to raise the awareness of what we're doing in Trenchtown and also to seek their support in helping us to make things a little bit better for the youngsters in that community.
The main thing that you do back there is Operation Restoration, which is a school.
Yes.
We'll come on to that in a minute, but first of all, tell me a little bit about your life before the school.
Well, before the school, I lived in the United States for more than 30 years, and I did a number of things there. I was involved in the media, NBC News as a researcher, the Palm Beach Post as a reporter. I had a PR firm. I did some legal assistance work and just a number of various things. I also got involved in the community in West Palm Beach in many, many different ways. But the pull to go back to Jamaica was so overwhelming that I gave it all up to go back there.
And what was that pull, do you think?
The pull really was to try to see if I could do something to help to repair the tarnished image that Jamaica had been getting, especially overseas in the United States and in the United Kingdom, because even though we once enjoyed the hospitality that we were famous for, it had begun to change, and we now were being seen as a very hostile country. Hence, we started the organization called Operation Restoration with a view to trying to restore some of what we had. For me, it was really very painful to hear all of the negative things that were being said about the people coming out from Jamaica, especially in the communities like Trenchtown, where I operate the school.
Why do you think Jamaica has got such a bad reputation in the world at the moment?
I am not really sure. I guess, it's pointless trying to hide it. Our crime rate has really, really soared over the past several years, even though, thank God, in the last 8 months, it's reducing substantially. But when you have a murder rate in a country like Jamaica, as small as Jamaica, that is close to 2,000 persons being killed in a year, then people really get very nervous about what is happening in a country like that. And I think that is what contributed to the negative views. In addition to that, a number of young people trying to find a better life outside of Jamaica have migrated, and some of them have gotten involved in criminal activities. And unfortunately, they have become infamous for some of these things.
Drugs, obviously, is one of the things you're talking about.
Yes, drugs is a concern. As you know, in the past several years, we had a problem with people coming out of Jamaica with drugs, especially women. They were called the drug mules, and they were transporting drugs out of the country. And of course, that would have caught the attention of the media. While in Jamaica, I do not think that we have a very bad drug problem within the country itself, within people using hard drugs. The drug of choice there, well, it's a herb, the marijuana, ganja as they call it. But the harder drugs are not really being used that much by the people in Jamaica. But I think it's maybe more like a transshipment port from different countries.
Do you see any sense, do you get any sense that that can be solved in the coming years?
Oh, yes. I don't think the situation is hopeless at all. With God, all things are possible. I personally believe, having worked in the community that I have been working in for the past 17 years and have been seeing the changes that we have been experiencing there, that some of the activities that the young people become involved in is simply because of a sense of hopelessness. Unemployment is very high. And as a result of that, there's a scarcity of funds for the basic things that they need to survive. And so they turn to criminal activities. The devil will always find work for idle hands. And I can see far too many young men, especially, sitting on the streets doing absolutely nothing. And there is no employment for them and no future for them. And I think that is the reason behind it. But I think if we give them opportunities and we try to change the existing conditions, sure, I really believe that things can change.
Now, let's talk about the school. Tell us about the Operation Restoration Christian School.
The Operation Restoration Christian School is a remedial education school where we teach literacy and numeracy to youngsters between the ages of 12 and up. Even as old as 22, we have had persons come into that school. We also have a specific program called Youth Off the Street, which, as the name suggests, is where we go on the streets. Everybody knows Trenchtown because of Bob Marley. And we are located on the border of what is called the Jungle and Rima. And because we are on the border of those communities, we are able to draw from all the neighboring communities, as it were. We are at the corner of 6th Street, and it's 6 streets down from 1st Street where Bob Marley lived. And when you walk from 6th Street down to 1st Street, on every single corner, on any given day, you can find no less than about 15 youngsters sitting there doing absolutely nothing at all with their lives. And all they do is sit and smoke ganja and get involved in planning criminal activities. And many of them are there because of a sense of frustration. I remember when we first started the school back in 1994, it was not difficult at all to find people, youngsters, wanting to come in and help us because of the stigma that is attached to that community. Young men and women, for that matter, whenever they would leave school, there would also be a sense of hopelessness, because even though in Jamaica, once you leave high school with a certain amount of subjects, you could get, well-paying jobs, they were unable to do so because employment is very difficult. But when you come from an address such as Trenchtown, nobody wants to hire you. So some of these young people just came and asked us if they could come and assist us, because they really felt as if there was no hope for them. There was no purpose to their lives. And opening the doors of the school really gave them new meaning and new purpose.
Now, how many pupils do you have in the school?
Well, we have a day program as well as an after school. In the day school, we have 62, and in the after school, to be very honest with you, we probably have more than 50. And I says probably because we're still registering persons from the after school. And in the after school, we go up as much as 100.
Now, I've had the pleasure of seeing one of your films on YouTube, which is about the school. And getting from the film, it would seem that you're having some financial difficulties at the moment.
Oh, yes. And that is one of the reasons that I'm here, to try and see if I can get some support to help us to continue with some of the many programs that we have. We have had, really tough times, especially recently with the economic downturn. It has really affected us. We had sponsors in the United States. For instance, there was a church that used to send us $500 a month, and now they're sending us $83 a month. In addition to that, a lot of the persons down in those communities depend on remittances that they receive from relatives overseas, such as here in the United Kingdom. And again, because of the economic hardships that they are encountering, it is affecting us there in Jamaica. So you find more and more students are unable to come to school. We charge a very nominal fee for the entire year, which is about £65. And it costs about £20 a month, for them to be fed by the school. And most of them are unable to find that. Because we are not in a position to be able to open our doors to all of the students that are in need, we would like to be able to accept more students, because we have had to be turning them away. And the infrastructure is going down, the roof is leaking and all of those things. But we have to take care of the immediate needs, which is really keeping the doors of the school open. And so we really are faced with serious financial difficulties, to the point where at one point we even contemplated closing the schools, which would have been disastrous because it would have meant displacing many families, because all of the teachers, all of the employees at the school are from the community, and their lives have been transformed dramatically since being there. And also we would be putting youngsters back on the streets to get back involved in criminal activities, and that was heartbreaking.
The school is called Operation Restoration Christian School. How did you come to faith?
That was a long time ago, and it's a long story.
It's okay, we have time.
Well, I have never really been asked that question, especially publicly. But I lived in the United States at the time. I lived in Florida. And at that time, I was a reporter at the Palm Beach Post. Well, I probably shouldn't have called the name of the newspaper. But I was the first person of color to be employed there. And I experienced quite a bit of discrimination. This was like in the mid-70s. And I would go on assignments sometimes, and I would have to be called back into the newsroom. And there were times when I would write stories, and I would look at the tear sheets, and some of the comments that were made were very painful. I really haven't talked about this in such a long time because it really left such a bad taste in my mouth. Because I was from Jamaica, primarily, I was seen as really not an American. So I felt very excluded because I was neither black nor white, when I considered myself black. I would go out and, they would say mean things and even the newsroom. And I remember on one occasion back in the 70s, I think it was 1977, when Castro had visited Jamaica. I went to Jamaica to cover him because I was born in Panama. And because I spoke Spanish, I was sent on that assignment. I'm also Jamaican. And the stories that I wrote, when I came back, it was just awful. I also was there during the period when the Haitians were coming over, and they would call up, cancel my subscription. It was just really awful. And I really wanted to give up. I was there for nearly 5 years, and it was really very, very bad. I would go home at night and I would cry. And there was one occasion where I really was very down and I didn't know what to do. And I went home and I just said, if there is a God, because my background at the time, I was a Roman Catholic, and I didn't know anything about having a personal relationship with the Lord or anything like that. And I just knelt at my bedside, and I used to have very, very bad migraine headaches, and I really cried my heart out. And I said, if there is a God, and if you're real, then please take away these migraine headaches and give me some peace about all of this. And honestly, right then and there, I said, God, whoever you are, you please come into my life and make things easier for me. And I felt such a peace after that. And it was as if it wasn't as if this person was there in the room with me and said, I have seen the pain, I've seen all of the anguish that you're going through at this time, but tomorrow morning go back into that newsroom, think positive thoughts, and things will change. And I did. I went in, and I really didn't know what had come over me, but I found this new peace. The headaches had gone. Thank God I never had a migraine since then. And I had this urge to really find something deeper. And I was walking, in the community one day, and I stopped by. It was during the summer, and I stopped by to buy something for my son, who was then in summer school. And I heard a voice say, talk with a very deep Jamaican accent. And I had smelled some gas, and I said, I smell gas in this place. And somebody came out and said, I hear a Jamaican. And he was reading a book that was written by a very prominent evangelist, and it said, Is God guilty? And I asked him, what does this all mean? And he invited me to go to church with him, and I went to church, and that day I made a commitment to the Lord, and ever since then I've been walking with the Lord.
I wish you were roses in the spring, fledglings on the wing, fireflies that sing your name. I wish you were flowers in the grass, shelter from the passing rain. I wish you joy.
Lorna Stanley.
I wish you joy.
Sunday Breakfast, BBC Radio Manchester. It's coming up on 21 minutes past 8.
BBC Radio Manchester.